You're listening to The Luxury Item, the podcast on the business of luxury and the people and companies that are shaping the future of the luxury industry. Here's your host, Scott Kerr.
The global health crisis stemming from the novel coronavirus pandemic has caused far-reaching negative economic impact across industries. The travel industry has been no exception. Travel demand is languishing at about a quarter of last year's levels. COVID-infected rates are skyrocketing in much of the U.S., and some cities and states are imposing new travel restrictions. However, there are certain indicators pointing to a potential long-term growth in one area, and that's private air travel. There was a significant spike in the use of private aviation in the first half of 2020, born largely from wealthy travelers working to transport family members out of infected areas that had severely limited or shut down commercial air travel. In fact, over the Memorial Day weekend, one of the busiest travel times in the United States in years past, traffic in the private jet industry was 58% of the volume from the same time last year. That's according to Argus, a company that tracks aviation data. But commercial flights fared far worse over the holiday, plunging to 12% of the 2019 levels. For years, jet service providers have ferried corporate executives and wealthy leisure travelers who paid high fees for the privacy and security. Now those same companies are shifting to meet rising demand from people worried about getting on a commercial flight. Many of the largest top private jet operators in the world have all reported significant increases in new customers. But as the United States and other countries around the world return to business as usual, will there be another surge in private aviation activity as flyers are anxious to secure their business interests and resume their luxury vacation plans? My special guest today on the Luxury Item podcast is a successful businessman, leader, aviation industry expert, and military veteran who knows all about the private aviation business. Glenn Gonzales is the founder and CEO of Jedit. Launched in 2018, Jedit is a Greensboro, North Carolina-based aviation company that boasts a new hybrid ownership model that provides individuals the opportunity to own a fraction of the aircraft. Glenn has deep experience in aviation, including serving as a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force, being a pilot and flight leader for a squadron of F-15 fighter jets. He went on to fly as a sales demonstration pilot for Gulfstream Aerospace and then serving as Honda Aircraft Company's sales manager for the Northeast USA. Glenn also participated as an active member of the U.S. Embassy Kyrgyz Republic team while deployed during Operation Enduring Freedom. Hello, Glenn. Thanks for joining me on the show.
Scott, thank you so much. I look forward to our conversation today.
I am really thrilled to have you on. First, I want to thank you for your service. Appreciate everything you've done, and I'm so excited to hear about a little bit about your past, and you have a very interesting background, and of course, Jedit and the world of private aviation. I know you've been in aviation for a while. I'm curious, when did you first get that aviation bug?
Well, I have loved aviation and all things aviation since I was a kid. As far as I can remember, whether it was with an airplane or wings or a cape or a space shuttle, I've wanted to fly. And I'm not sure where that came from, but if I could revisit the third grade and the book covers that I used to have over my school books, I had airplanes and spaceships drawn on them. My mom will tell you stories of how I would try to jump out of trees with a pillowcase on my neck and believe that I could fly. And so aviation and the skies and the clouds have always been in my sights. And I'm very fortunate and blessed to have had an opportunity to have over now 20 years as an aviator and now to run Jedit.
Yeah, I mean, you were in the U.S. Air Force as a fighter pilot, then worked for Gulfstream and Honda Aircraft. At what point did you think, or if you ever thought that someday you were going to run your own aviation company?
You know, it is not something that I've thought of at the time as you're going through. One thing I do know, though, is constantly pursuing your passions. I have always been very focused on going after those things that I was interested in. So wanting to fly, wanting to play college basketball, wanting to go to the Air Force Academy, wanting to study human factors engineering, wanting to go after each one of those things and get as close to whatever dream that was in front of me that I could find. and what I was passionate about. In doing that, each step along the way, I've done my best to make good decisions, to be disciplined, and to figure out how to get to those goals. And in pursuit of one goal, it's led to the next thing. And I've had a chance to travel the world in private jets as an operator, as a salesman. I've had a chance to shoot missiles from aircraft, and of course simulated. I didn't have to defend our nation in that manner, but I've done some amazing things in aircraft that 99% of the world has not had an opportunity to do, and in some cases has never even thought to do. And so I'm very blessed and fortunate for that. And that's really how I ended up with Jetted. The pursuit of those passions along the way have introduced me to new things, and I continually just continue to go and try to find the next passion. And Jetted is where we are today, and it's a lifelong passion now that didn't start with Jetted.
Yeah, it seemed like you were destined to do this. And so why did you launch Jetted? Like, what part of the aviation sandbox did you want to play in that you saw that nobody else was playing in?
Well, I think the answer starts a little bit further back with my career in aviation. Starting in the Air Force, I absolutely loved flying fighters. It was a tremendous experience, but it really didn't allow you to share the experience. Flying fighters, although you're defending the nation and you're supporting our country and our government, it's wonderful, but it is limited in how much you can share with the person next to you.
Right.
And so that allowed me the freedom to think, well, what if I'm not flying fighters? What am I more passionate about than flying fighters? And that was my family. The opportunity to spend more time with my daughters at the time, who were 4 and 2, to be at more of their music concerts or sporting matches, whatever it is that they are doing. I wanted to be there and be present. So at that time, I chose my family instead of the active duty military, and I still serve in the reserves.
Mm-hmm.
But that passion led me to Gulfstream. And again, flying around the world was a great experience, but it pulled away from that time with my wife and girls, with my family, my parents, my sister. And so to make a long story short, I started looking for opportunities that would still provide my family with the needs that we wanted, and the things that we wanted. And I landed in sales. And that was where I ended up at Honda Aircraft Company. And I heard the same thing over and over again. Glenn, this airplane is a masterpiece. I love this airplane, but it's more airplane than I need. Can you help me find a partner? I don't want to buy a $6 million airplane and only use it for 30 days out of the year. Can you help me find a way to reduce my cost of ownership? And after hearing that time and again, my co-founder and I, he heard the same thing, where he was selling for Honda outside of the US in the eastern half of the world. And so Jetted was formed from a need in the marketplace, a knowledge of a superior product, and an innovative business model that we pulled together between the two of us.
If you could explain to listeners who are perhaps unfamiliar with the whole private jet fractional ownership model, and talk about Jetted's hybrid fractional ownership model and how it's different.
Sure. There are a number of different ways that you can have access to private aviation. The first, of course, is owning the entire aircraft yourself. Incredibly expensive, labor intensive, and also requires a lot of staffing and time. The next segment of that, one of the things that eliminates some of the labor and the time, are the traditional fractional models. Those traditional fractional models are such that you can buy a fraction or a piece of the airplane, and someone else does all of the operations and pilot management. They take out the time and the labor and the people aspect of it, but the cost is almost in some cases equivalent to owning an entire aircraft. So then you have on-demand travel or charter users or jet cards. And those are for the individuals who typically don't have a need for a lot of travel, but it's very expensive as well, and it's not consistent. The experience is inconsistent. The aircraft that shows up may not be what you expect it to be. Oftentimes it's an open fleet, and it could be a 25-year-old airplane that doesn't have Wi-Fi. It doesn't create the same consistent experience. Jedit, we're a hybrid model. We actually fit in between all of those different types of ownership. We have the whole aircraft ownership piece in that our owner pilots can participate in our Red Jet Squadron. They can fly their own airplane next to one of our captains. The fractional piece is they're not buying the entire aircraft. We've eliminated all of the headache and pain of aircraft ownership, as well as a significant amount of the cost. And the last piece of that is we have a buyback guarantee that provides you with some predictability. We are a closed fleet solution with the Hypertech Honda Jet Elite, and it's safe, comfortable, quiet, spacious. And so you have a consistent experience with our team members who've been taught how to engage with passengers and to make you feel at home. It's your private flight department, whereas if you own the entire airplane, but you don't have to own the entire airplane.
So traditionally, fractional ownership is based on hours, correct? And I think yours is a little bit different. It's based on days, owning by day.
Absolutely. Going back to those discussions with those individuals interested in buying the entire airplane, Glenn, really what I need is to be able to justify this. I need to be able to fly from New York to Chicago, have a meeting in Chicago, then I need to fly down to Arkansas and meet with our distributor or our manufacturer, supplier in Arkansas, and then I need to make it back home in the evenings. With a days-based model, you can do all of those things, and at our $1,600 an hour rate, it now becomes justifiable to have access to a private jet for the entire day. Essentially, you're treating it like we treat our cars and run errands. I was in DC earlier this week and was stuck in traffic even during this COVID environment. Right. An hour in traffic is an hour versus an hour in the airplane. I can fly from New York to DC in 35 minutes, be on the ground and very close to wherever it is that I'm trying to go, that being the nearest airport in the area. So now with our days-based model, individuals can actually run errands with our aircraft, but it's those business owners that need to make multiple stops. They need to get the maximum amount of productivity out of the travel for that day. And that's what we offer.
Do you limit the number of days that they can buy? Can they just hoard days and just put it in, put it away for a rainy day? Or did how does that work? Or do you put a limit on a cap on it?
Yeah, that's a great question. We try to make sure to right size the experience for each owner. And so our sales team, we're serving as consultants. We're serving as subject matter experts in the time and travel industry. I say time because that is our number one luxury that we can offer to anyone. So understanding what their needs are for our owners, it provides us with the opportunity to choose the right share size for them. And the number of days are commensurate with the size of share that you buy.
Got it. So let's talk about what's been going on in the last 4 months. And, every industry has been upended, and particularly the aviation industry. What has been the demand for your service been like since the pandemic breakout? And how is Jedit keeping up with that demand?
Yeah, it's such a trying time across all industries right now. Even in our industry, unfortunately, there have been a number of companies that have shuttered their doors and windows, and they're in some cases have gone out of business. We've been very fortunate to have a model that allows us to continue to operate, to be asset light, if you will. And we have actually grown during this time frame, not just from an operational standpoint, but we've added team members. We've added 16 individuals since the start of COVID, that being pilots, that being some of our senior leadership within our team. And we have increased our sales, have been up 300%. Our charter activity has been up 5x from this same time frame last year. So we're really encouraged by the response to the market, or the response of the market to what we bring to the table. And what we've found is a lot more repeat travelers, people who've come back to us as owners, as charter users, and of course, an increase in activity in reference to our sales as well.
And how about new flyers?
Lots of new charter users, lots of new interest for potential share owners. And so we've been very happy with how the market has reached out to us. And we're typically very quiet in communicating.
Yeah. What questions do they ask you? Some of the new flyers who've never either have taken a private jet before, maybe have taken a couple of times before as a guest.
Yeah. I think all of us around the world now are thinking, how can I best protect my family, my friends, the people that are with me? So the first question that people want to know is, what are you doing, Glenn, to sanitize and to make sure that my family is safe? So the safety extends now beyond just the pilots and their experience, beyond the aircraft and the weather. It also includes the environment. How healthy is the environment? And so it's an easy response for us. We started the COVID pandemic in March when China first started to talk about we started first talking about the first cases being here in the U.S. We outsourced and worked with Latitude Aero, which is a company local to us with an extensive experience in interiors. And we had them teach us, all of our pilots. We had them teach our cleaning company and our detailing company how to make sure that the airplanes are sanitized before and after every single flight, how to make sure that they're deep cleaned on a more frequent rotation than they were previously, to make sure that we create a safe environment. So that's the first question. And then from there, they want to know, well, will you provide an additional service to us? Can you make sure that we don't have to take an Uber or a car or a taxi? And that's just part of what we do inherently. We have a client experience team, and it's a 24/7 concierge. We'll pick you up at home. We'll have a preferred vendor that has a sanitized vehicle, bring you to the airport to eliminate the need to fly or to travel in some other vehicle. And we'll control as many of the touch points as we can. If we need to arrange for a meeting room for you, we'll do that, and we'll coordinate with that venue to make sure that that area is also cleaned and sanitized for you.
So they're looking for essentially, contactless end-to-end solutions
to the maximum extent possible. And I think our business model, being a days-based service, lends to that exceptionally well. In a lot of cases, people are able to go out, have their meetings, and then return home without having to wait in the queue for a hotel or wait in the queue for a taxi line there in New York or in DC at the airport. So it's mitigating and minimizing the potential touch points that they can be exposed.
Right. And what is the demographic makeup of the jetted customer, and has it changed over the past year?
It's more of the same. Oftentimes it's the small and medium-sized business owner, but we are universal. We fit the large corporate outfits that may already have aircraft. What they have found is with Jetted, they can utilize us to provide a private transportation solution to a larger segment of their employee base. So now more senior managers or vice presidents within a company have access to private travel. On the other end, you have the recreational flyers who are looking to move their parents home to meet them and to bring them closer to them, or to go and visit with their parents as the pandemic continues to hopefully soon subside.
So you're seeing more families?
Absolutely. We're seeing entire families traveling that oftentimes would travel and buy 4 first-class seats. They are now jumping in, and we'll see a family of 4 and a dog flying with us from New York to South Florida. And then as the pandemic has moved south, they've reached back to find another flight back to New York, to where things are hopefully continuing to settle.
And I know one of the things you're hoping for, I would say, in the next, when this does settle, is that people get comfortable. The ones that have, especially the new customers that have been comfortable with this, won't go back to commercial aviation.
Absolutely. I think when we built the business model, Scott, my co-founder and I, what we recognized was Jetta is really the natural evolution of transportation. By that, I mean, we are all looking for more efficiency, more autonomy or control when we travel. Just like we could all walk to work in the mornings, but we don't. We want to hop in our cars so we can get there as quickly as possible. We could all take the airlines, but there are TSA challenges, waiting in the terminal, and now flying on the aircraft with a number of people that we don't know, that create health challenges or concerns. And so by having a private travel solution, you're only flying with the people that you invited to join you, your family, your friends. It's fast, so you're to and from your destination as quickly as we can get you there. It is a jet, so you really typically can't beat that. And it's smart, because if you want to go out and return home, you can do so. So it's the natural evolution of transportation. I foresee that this will be the case, and companies like Jetta providing a cost-effective private jet solution will continue to grow, and you'll continue to see us scale very quickly.
That's great. And if you were to look over the past 4 or 5 months since the pandemic started, you look back and say, if you want to come up with like a list of lessons learned that either you were prepared for or not prepared for and adjusted on the fly, what were some of the lessons that you've learned that perhaps will help shape your company for the future?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind to that question, Scott, is we are doing everything that we can to make sure that people are well taken care of, and it's only accentuated our business model: private, fast, smart. People are now more aware of what we're doing. They've been looking for us. So part one of the answer to your question over the last 4 to 5 months is we were prepared for this, and the market was waiting for something like Jetta. But the other piece to that is as I mentioned earlier, we've been growing during this time, and our pursuit in bringing on additional talent onto our team is in preparation for the other side of COVID. We are running towards the flames, and that's, I guess, something that I learned from my time in the military. You have to run towards your challenges and take them on. And this is a challenge for us all globally. And we've invested in our team. We've kept everyone that we started with. We've grown our workforce in the process. And we've been working exceptionally hard to prepare for the other side of COVID, if you will. There will be a day when it is no more. And given that we are on the leading edge of this change in transportation, where people are looking for more autonomy, we'll be there, and we'll be prepared and ready to continue to support and continue to grow with them.
Have you learned any lessons when it comes to specifically customer service?
Yeah, we have 2 things that are near and dear to us. The first, operate safely. The second, make sure our travelers are happy. Of course, everyone is genuinely concerned in making sure that whatever the environment is safe. So from an experience standpoint, that's always been making sure that people are happy has always been part of our mantra on a daily basis. But in this particular case now, we've recognized that we have to be more adaptable and flexible and in tune with what their needs are, specifically having hand sanitizer on the aircraft, communicating what it is that we're doing to make sure that the airplanes are serviced and cleaned. And that begins with our team communicating internally, having checklists to make sure that these things have been accomplished so that we can identify to our travelers, here's what we're doing for you. So I would say just being better communicators in line with what we normally do.
We were talking before about these different models and business models and fractional ownership models that have popped up over the past several years, and it almost seems like it's a democratization of private aviation that's been emerging. That's a disruption in itself, and what you're doing is disrupting the market. Where do you think the next disruption will come from, and how will technology play a role in that disruption for your business?
Yeah. There's a guy who does a lot of speaking, a gentleman by the name of Tony Seba. And Tony Seba is a Stanford professor, I believe. And he outlines a disruption as a leap in technology, or the combination of a leap in technology, a business model that's innovative, and a market that's ready for each of these items. And the Honda Jet is a phenomenal aircraft, and it has all of the things that you want in a private jet. And I can speak to that from my time at Gulfstream, having flown and operated and helped sell the best airplanes in the world.
You have exclusively Honda Jets, correct?
That is correct. We are exclusively a Honda Jet fleet. So
is that
we
unique?
have it is. We are the largest fleet operator for the Honda Jet worldwide, and we aim to continue to be so. So you have this leap in technology, our innovative business model. Knowing what I know from an engineering degree and background, and a graduate degree at Embry-Riddle, studying aviation, the Honda Jet is going to be hard to beat in this category of aircraft.
Why is that?
So until we have, at the end of the day, Scott, it's about physics. If I want to move 6 people, that's essentially 1,200 pounds on average, people in bags. It requires a lot of energy to move 1,200 pounds of anything from one spot to the next. The faster I move it, the more precise and better equipment that I have. The larger and more precise equipment, the more fuel that's required to power it. So what's necessary in this particular case, the Honda Jet is the most efficient and the fastest vehicle that also provides you with an experience that is desirable for a private luxury experience. And so that's why I call it a hyper technologically advanced airplane. I don't consider it a high-tech aircraft, and because of the design of the airplane, Mr. Fujino masterfully engineered it, and Honda's done an amazing job. It's going to be hard to beat for a long time to come.
It seems like these days that industries that can offer a product or service that can market itself as efficient, flexible, cost-effective, and a safer alternative are really better positioned for a post-COVID world. So do you think those factors contribute in the long-term rise in demand for private air travel and your services?
Absolutely, Scott. That is exactly who we are. Cost-effective, reliable, consistent. Those are all traits that we would describe for who we are, and that's what people want at the end of the day. If I have to be somewhere, maybe I need to get to a family event. I want a cost-effective way to do it. I don't want to have to grind my teeth because I had to pay an arm and a leg to make that happen. I don't want to have to make a decision between life and cost. And being able to provide that consistently at a reasonable price point is who we are.
So what do you say to someone who, has flown privately a few times or not at all, or really have never bought into the whole time savings, privacy, and efficiency of it, but are now taking a fresh view of private aviation? What's your pitch?
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously, everyone has a different interest and need. And so the first question is simply, what is it that you're using it for? And recognizing the value begins there. The value in what we can offer is more time in your day. If I can give you back 5 hours of your life in each week, I've given you back 20 hours a month. What would you do with those 20 hours of time? And that's a remarkable experience that we can provide over that person who's been in the airlines, who's spending an hour to get to the airport an hour early. Then they are sitting in the terminal for an hour. Then they're traveling to a connection, which are limited these days. And they're sitting in the connection airport for an hour, and then they're traveling for another hour. They've just lost 5 hours of their day. Whereas with us, they show up to the airport, they get on the airplane and fly away. They're at their destination in 45 minutes, 3 hours time. Whereas it would have taken them twice that or even more in some cases flying commercially. Essentially, it's what's the value of your time, and what are you going to do with that time is
Right.
the other piece to that.
So the COVID boom in demand for privatization seems like an opportunity for growth in the industry now. So how, as these, we're seeing these, as these stay-at-home orders ease, how can private air travel sort of ride these positive tailwinds and continue to grow as an industry?
Yeah. I think the main thing that we and the entire industry have to make sure to do, although it seems simple, there are a lot of challenges to manage these things. The first is to make sure that we're controlling the environment to the maximum extent possible. Cleaning the airplanes in line with the CDC recommendations, creating a safe space for passengers. The next thing that we have to do is make sure that we are providing that consistent level of service. Unfortunately, the airlines are a low margin business. So one of the things that's going to give from the airlines is the amount of service that you receive. So providing a higher level of service above and beyond what the commercial airlines were already providing, and providing a level of experience that everything that you might want is taken care of for you, and there's no additional cost for that. Those are things that we have to do. And so it's a lot of effort that goes on behind the scenes to coordinate meals, to coordinate the transportation from the airport, to coordinate venues, and then return someone back home. And all of those things to happen on time, on schedule, like clockwork. That's what we have to do as an industry. It's a lot of effort.
Yeah. Do you think investing in marketing would also help not only in individual aviation companies, but the industry itself, the associations that are involved in it, to do more marketing of private aviation?
I think so. Our industry does a very good job. The National Business Aviation Association, NBAA, GAMA, General Aircraft Manufacturers Association, they do a great job of communicating to the market the benefits of private travel. Each company now has to go out and do their part, but collectively, we need to help adjust the mindset of how private transportation can be of a benefit. It's not just a luxury tool. As I mentioned earlier, it's something that you can use as an errand or as a tool to run your errands, to connect you with more of the country in a day's time. And so sharing the benefits of private travel are one of the things that I think we can do better as an industry.
Great. And my final question, which I ask all my guests, is the luxury item question. And this should be an interesting answer. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. So if you were stranded on a desert island and you could have just one luxury item with you, and it can't be a form of transportation, I'm sorry, no Honda Jet. And it can't have anything that requires mobile service, what would that one luxury item that you can have with you?
Yeah. Wow. Well, without my jet and the ability to save time in life, that's our biggest luxury as far as I'm concerned. It's a very tough question to answer, and as far as items are concerned, Scott. And the reason I say that is this whole COVID pandemic and experience has been so sobering. A very dear friend of mine has a father on a ventilator right now. Mm-hmm. And so that has been challenging for him and for our friendship and for everyone around him. And we're just, a couple of people, and there are hundreds of thousands around the country and around the world. So the luxury to me would just be more time, and my daughters and their violin and cello and piano, and my wife and my family and friends. That's the luxury item that I want. That's what people use our service for, is to have a grander experience in life. So I think it would be to create those memories with them until I can figure out how to get off of the island and back to my jets.
That's a great answer. Glenn, I really appreciate it. You were a super guest, and I learned a lot, and I'm sure my listeners learned a lot too. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Scott.
That's it for this episode of the Luxury Item Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this useful and entertaining, I would be really grateful if you can share it with a friend or colleague. I would love it if you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps other listeners find us. The Luxury Item Podcast is a production of Silvertone Consulting. I'm your host, Scott Kerr. Until next time.